Hey everybody, welcome back to day 4, Breakfast with Bob from Hotel West End in beautiful Nice. My name is Bob Babbitt, brought to you by Master Spas, SFuels Go Longer, HOKA Let's Fly, deboer wetsuits, Form Smart Swim Goggles, Zoot Sports, the original triathlon brand, Quintana Premium Plus Sports, and of course our Challenged Athletes Foundation. We've now raised $159 million and sent out over 44,000 grants to keep challenged athletes in the game of life through sport. Our next guest, the Editor-in-Chief of Triathlete Magazine, Mr. Chris Foster. How you doing, Chris?
I'm good. How you doing? Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
You know what? We've known each other for a lot of years, but I don't think we've ever done this before.
No, we haven't. This is my first time on your show.
Thank you so much for taking time.
We had to go the long route. We had to go from San Diego and LA all the way to Nice. All the way to Nice just to meet right back again.
Love it. So what are your impressions so far of our first ever Ironman World Championship in basically in Nice, but outside of the Hawaiian Islands for the first time?
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible so far.
Yeah.
I think it's obviously a very different vibe. I think people are trying to compare the two, which I think is silly.
No, you got to look at them individually.
Right, right. And I think the Niçois, which is like my new favorite word, the people of Nice have been very friendly.
Yes.
They're clearly they love their sports. I was out there couple miles south swimming the other day, and there's over 50 crowds out there just doing their swim thing. Probably don't even know there's Ironman going on. They're just out there.
The fitness, it's funny because we think when I first started going to Kona, nobody was running, right? Now it's like a freeway of runners on Elite Drive of people who've gotten into fitness lifestyle because of the Ironman.
Yes.
And here, Ironman or triathlon has been here since '82.
Right.
And they doubled down during COVID and built way more bike lanes and running paths and everything else. It's a freeway.
Yeah.
People running, riding, skating.
Right.
It's wonderful.
Irrespective of the Ironman.
Yes.
I think they're out there 2 weeks ago. They're out there today.
Exactly.
Which is cool. I think that's very exciting.
Yeah. And that's what's fun to see how that lifestyle has caught on. And it's funny. I think there's a ton of people who they run, they swim, they bike. They've never done a race.
Right.
This is who they are. Their life.
Yes.
They would consider them a triathlete.
Yeah.
Triathlete. They would watch online because it's part of their DNA.
Right.
But they're not racing.
Right. No. And they see people and they're just like, oh, another cyclist. Oh,
yeah.
Another runner.
Yes.
Oh, that's Patrick Longa. No,
Yes.
It's just another guy.
Yes.
It's just another swimmer. Oh, it's Jan Fernandez. We don't care about him. Yeah.
So what are the plans? What are you guys doing this week?
So we've been shooting a lot of the pro bikes.
Okay.
That's always fun, checking in with the pros and seeing their setups.
Right.
I think we're seeing a lot of
different.
Yeah, very interesting. Like the details are so different than what we saw in Kona.
Right.
We're seeing this focus on like the descent and on handling.
Right.
And we're seeing people putting skateboard grip tape on their bars, and that's very different. And in Kona, it's like all about aero. I mean, it's
power and aero.
Yeah, and aero still matters.
Sure.
But I think especially amongst the pros, there's this thing, and maybe it's a little bit of ego.
Right.
But they say it's about strategy. It's like they don't want to be the guy who loses it on the descent.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that's a very common, like especially a guy thing. I feel like
Wow.
you don't want to be the guy who lost it on the descent.
Right.
But I've heard other guys say, like Cam was saying, well, I don't know why everyone cares about the descent so much. It's about the climb.
It is about the climb.
Of course, he'd say that though.
Yeah.
He could eat a baguette and descend faster than most of these guys.
The funny part with the Cam is when he came to the sport from cycling.
Mm-hmm.
I was interviewing him for Tri Club of San Diego, and just we're talking. I'm like, Cam, you did 8 Ironman races this year. That is ridiculous.
It's crazy.
He goes, but Bob, what you don't understand is, because of my background, I can get up every day of the year, 365 days a year, and do a 2.4 mile swim and 112 mile bike ride. That would take nothing out of me. And I'm sitting there going,
what a nice thing.
I know.
I wish I had that.
I know. And then you follow him on Strava, and it's like, oh, he rode 90, rode 120, rode 130. It's like having a bagel to him. It's like no big deal whatsoever.
Truly. I mean, yeah.
The person who I'm really intrigued about, Patrick Lange, he is won Ironman World Championship twice, and he'll tell you that course isn't good for him.
No.
He's not a power guy.
Right.
He's not going to push 400 watts.
Right.
He has to try to stay close and then run away. Well, here, his weight to strength ratio is so good.
Right.
He will climb well, and he's been, he brought the Canyon team out here.
Yep.
To look at what makes sense. Should I ride? They thought, well, you should ride a road bike with bars. And then they realized, no, tri-bar is bike is really the way to go here,
Yeah.
which is what he's doing.
Yeah.
But then he hooked up with cycling teams to work on the descent.
Yes.
Braden Curry got on a motorcycle to take the downhills to get a sense for that. I just love the fact that we have no idea.
Yes.
There's no tracker. Even somebody who won here before, it was a 10K shorter bike course.
Right.
Nobody has ever done this race.
Right. And the dynamics will be totally different.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
and then I do think there will be some explosions
Yes.
of guys getting off the bike, and with the normally in Kona, you get to run out in the middle of nowhere,
Right.
get through town, and sort of be okay with your own thoughts. Here, 4 laps,
Yeah.
crowds are gonna be going out of their minds.
Right. I know the whole time, and it's exposed, and it's the same.
Yes.
There's the landmarks are fewer.
Right.
You don't have those awesome, sometimes horrible landmarks.
Yes.
Like
After Legend Lab.
Right. You don't
Yeah,
have
yeah.
that, but I think when you come out of that, you're like, hey, I beat the natural energy.
Right.
Like, I just got to get into town.
Right.
And of course it always doesn't work
Right.
out, but here it's just like another one.
Right.
Another one.
Yes.
The sun's still on me. Sun's still on me.
Yes.
The crowd. I saw that guy before. I remember him. Like that mentally. More power to them. I would not want to do that.
And what do you guys do on the race day?
On race day, we're going to be just kind of lightly covering the race.
Right.
But then afterwards, we're going to be interviewing the pros.
Right.
It's going to be all hands on deck.
Right.
Covering the results and
Sure.
things like that. But race day is oddly like this little bit of an eye of the storm.
For me too.
Right.
Like
like
you don't
there's
want
only
to step on any toes. It's Ironman's show.
Right, right.
You don't want to be putting out content that takes away from what Ironman's doing.
Right.
On race day.
And
That's
we've
their
done
thing.
like nonstop live tweets and stuff in
Yes.
the past. I don't think we'll be doing that this year.
No.
Probably just some updates here and there.
Exactly.
We'll have our amazing photographer Brad Kaminsky out on the course,
Yes.
doing the moto thing.
Right, right.
And he's a seasoned, cycling
Right.
photographer.
Right,
So
right.
the descents won't bother him. But yeah, he'll be out there getting great shots, and then we'll have a social team. We'll have Susan Lackey, who's just off camera, manning the social. Tyler Neville, one of our social guys too.
Right.
So the team will just be pecking away. But then once those top 3, top 5, top 10 guys come in, it's like now our race begins.
Exactly.
Right?
Age
like
group. Oh, yeah.
you
Age group
can't
stories.
be tired because you're like,
No.
okay, go. now.
Where's Gordon Haller at?
Right. Find Gordon.
We'll find Gordon, and I met this guy, Bob Nucky from Canada, who won the Toronto Marathon. He ran a 2:30 from a Canadian guy. His PR is 2:28. Didn't do a triathlon until he was 60.
Wow.
And then went to Kona and went 11:55 when he was 70 to shatter the course record. Now he's here at 75.
That's awesome.
To see he wants to go sub 14. And it's like, oh my God, this guy's amazing.
So you got to find
But
him.
yeah, you got to find Bob, right?
Right.
And one of our huge supporters from CAF, Michael Fish, is racing here, and want to make sure Michael has the day that he wants to have. And
Right.
it's that to me is the pros are one thing, but it's the people who don't. Well, everybody here, nobody knows if they're getting to the finish line or not.
Right.
Which I think is
Right.
what makes Ironman so special, is the fact that there's a tie between the age groupers and the pros, because nobody knows what the day holds.
Right.
And
Especially on a course like this.
Yes.
And, it's a world championship for the
Yep.
first time ever here. So it's like, we have the best of the best. I think that's what people kind of lose sight
Yes.
of sometimes. Like these are the fastest Ironman athletes in the world.
Right.
In fact, we did a story the other day that broke down those numbers. And, everyone said, well, Nice is easier or lighter. It's easier to get into. No.
Yeah.
The times getting into Nice this year were actually faster to qualify than
Oh,
they
interesting.
were last year.
Yeah.
Which was totally counterintuitive to the anecdotal evidence that people were kind of,
Right.
I heard a buddy rolled down 10 spots or something
Right.
like that. So, these are the fastest, which is cool.
That's-
But it also causes people, like you were saying, to push themselves maybe a little bit too hard. And so you don't know. The finish is not a given.
Well, and the finish is not a given, because we've seen Jan Verdena walk in a marathon,
Yes.
and we've seen so many different guys
Yes.
who've went too hard or whatever happened. So that's what makes it the Ironman.
Yeah.
That's what makes it so special. You guys are under the outside umbrella, and there's how many different websites
Oh, Bob's not even
publications?
asked me that. There's so many.
There's a ton.
Yeah,
there's a
lot.
ton. Is there crossover? Are you finding that people are, because like when we owned, we had Competitor, we had Triathlete, we had, what else we had?
Velo at the time.
Velo, yes,
Yeah.
we had Velo. And there really wasn't much crossover, right?
Yeah.
It was like the cyclists were like, I'm not going to be a geek in a Speedo, right? I'm not doing that silly stuff.
Yeah.
But you wonder sometimes if by having everything under Outside, which is such an amazing brand.
Thank you.
That if people are going, well, I could see every runner, triathlete, cyclist needs yoga.
Right.
And trying kayaking and doing winter sports.
Yeah, well, it's funny you mention that because I know triathletes are the most likely to say, hey, I'm going to dip into yoga.
Absolutely.
I'm going to dip into, cycling only. Or maybe
Gravel,
skiing in the winter or something, because we have skiing, we have climbing. We used to not see so much going the other direction.
Right.
Right. I think kind of like you were saying, they're
Yes.
a little more sticking to their, their wheelhouse. But now that we have Outside Magazine, which
Yes.
is a little more of a catch-all.
It is.
I think that audience is being excited by stories about triathlon.
Right.
And so now you're, instead of getting, a few thousand looks a day or whatever, you're getting tens of thousands of looks a day
Very
at
cool.
these triathlon stories.
Nice.
And then they're making their way over to our site too.
I like that.
Yeah,
And
which
because
is good.
to be honest, I think what's happened the last number of years, and COVID certainly didn't help, we've lost a lot of races in the States. We've lost just in Southern California between
Yeah.
Super Frog, Super Seal, Carlsbad Triathlon. I can go on and on and on. And that's not a good trend.
No.
We want more people to know our sport and get involved.
Yeah.
How important is that? Obviously, that's important for triathlete because
yeah.
you need new people.
Yeah.
So those race directors, I look at those guys as our endangered species because
Yeah.
it's so expensive to put these things on. How do you guys work with the race directors to keep them going and also to potentially bring them new customers?
Yeah, I think we do that with, we have a lot of the beginner stories.
Right.
Obviously, I think honestly, like I was just talking about with that outside reader, I
Right.
think that outside reader is what we consider a potential triathlete.
Totally.
We do work with USA Triathlon. I
Yes.
think they do a little more of that, like outreach, helping
Yep.
the race director kind of
Yep.
thing. The new CEO over at USAT,
Yeah,
Victoria.
Victoria.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's awesome, just
Yes.
high energy,
Yep.
like nonstop. So we're excited by
Good.
her and that, and I
Yes.
think that should help kind of bring
Yes.
people in. But
And
yeah,
we-
just having that pipeline. Like, if I've got a great beginner story or a human interest story or, something exciting will happen this weekend.
Yes.
And I want to push it over to Outside, we can do that. And then you're getting,
That's good.
Yeah, right.
Because that's really what it comes down to is people need to be exposed to the sport, which I
Right.
think, with the sort of demise of print publications,
Yeah.
they're not going by a newsstand and seeing a triathlete on
No.
the cover of a magazine, either on competitor or on triathlete.
Right.
So there's less exposure for the new person going, oh, maybe I want to give that a try.
Right.
The thing that as Ironman has been more and more successful, which is wonderful, I also feel that things have changed. What used to be people got into the sport, did a sprint race, did an Olympic race, became part of their lifestyle,
Yep.
went and did a 70.3 and did a full, and they're part of our world.
Right. They're a triathlete.
A triathlete.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden we had this bucket list character
Yes.
who decided, you know what, I want to do an Ironman.
Right.
And I'm going to hire a coach, and in 6 months I'm going to get my M.Dot tattoo, and then I'm going to move on to gravel.
Right,
Something like that.
or mud racing.
Or mud racing or something
Yeah,
else.
yeah.
So in the what I call the endurance entertainment marketplace has so many more opportunities and options
Yes.
that sometimes triathlon gets lost because, I want to go do a Spartan race.
Yeah.
I'm going to go do color run. I'm going
Right.
to go do this or that or marathon. And it's understanding that we got to get people back to Sprint Olympics.
Yeah.
To keep them, that to me is how we keep people in the sport forever.
Yeah, I think that the person who does 5 sprints in an Olympic and throughout the year, that's the triathlete lifestyle.
me.
Yeah, right. Well, and that's me. Like
Yeah.
I love short course racing.
It's the best.
I only I was just telling someone the other day. It's like if I had the opportunity to race 3 or 4 days a week, I would have done it.
Totally.
Like, I didn't love training.
No.
Like I trained to race.
Listen, what people don't understand, a race is a catered workout.
Yeah.
You don't have to think about bringing anything with you.
Right.
And
right.
if you're doing the races, the shorter races, you're in a beer garden at 9 in the morning.
Yeah.
What's better than that?
I know. I mean, we're here to talk about Ironman, and that's great. But I always love short course. I wrote
Right.
a whole book about short course racing.
Yes.
Because I'm like that is a sustainable. You can do it all the
Sustainable
time.
lifestyle, yes.
You can still have your family. You can still do other things. You can but Ironman just it absorbs
It can.
everything. Sometimes, yeah.
Yep. And you want that to be part of your life, and you
Right.
want that to be because that lifestyle is so great. But what we really want is people to understand that you can, if you're an Ironman person, a lot of times someone says, "Hey, I'm training for an Ironman. my coach told me I need to do brick workouts on the weekend. I'm like, no, you need to go do a race.
Yeah.
Go do a sprint race, do an Olympic race to get ready for that, so you understand transitions and all the rest
and just
of it.
the feeling of it.
Racing,
right?
You got to understand it and not just do all the training for one race.
Right.
We got to keep them in forever.
Right. And yeah, that keeps your excitement level higher too.
No question.
Yeah, because if you're just training all the time and you're doing one race, it's like
You burn out.
Yeah. I mean, like we all know, training sucks often, almost always. Like at least it did for me. I don't know. Maybe some people are better, but yeah, I always loved racing, and I agree with you. I think the more racing, the better. And but it doesn't have to be. I think some people put such a premium on racing. Like every race has to be my championship. I always have to PR. Just get out there and just do it and have fun.
Again,
you know,
it's just something.
See your friends.
You see
catch
your
up.
buddies.
Yeah.
We have a group in what I call our 60 to death category. And we get out at the races pretty much every weekend and get our photo. And the common line is, why are we up at 5 in the morning to do this silly stuff? And the answer is always the same. It's because we can.
Right.
Because we love it. Because we're going to be in a beer garden at 9 in the morning.
Right.
With toasting each other for getting up at 5:30 to come do a triathlon.
Well, because if you went to the beer garden at 9 a.m. in the morning and you didn't do the thing before, they have a different
That's
name
a problem.
for that.
Right.
That's a different. That's a different group. Right. Yeah. You need help. Yeah.
What's after this? So now you get the women's race.
Got the women's race. That's exciting. We got a little bit of a pause before that, but yeah, we're fired up for Kona.
Right.
I mean, this is cool, but I missed Kona last year. I had the birth of my first child.
Good for you.
So I didn't get to go, and obviously there was a big lapse before that. So I'm excited to go back to Kona just personally.
Yeah,
see the
special.
sights and everything. Yeah.
It's funny because obviously because of my background with Ironman, all I care about is Kona. Right? That's it. And when they said Nice, I'm like, no.
I know.
And especially breaking up the men and the women. Because I think last year we saw in Kona and in St. George that camaraderie of Gustav and these guys out cheering for the women, the women cheering for the guys. I thought that was wonderful.
Yes.
And I was hoping that we could figure out a way to keep those. I thought the 2 days in Kona last year were phenomenal.
Yeah.
I wish we could figure out a way to both be in the same place.
Town.
But you know what? I think that Nice is as much like Kona as any place can be.
Yeah.
And you're right. You can't compare them. It's a totally separate entity.
Right. Except they both have beautiful water.
They both have
That's
beautiful,
the one thing that they're both very
clear
similar.
and warm water.
Yes.
I don't want to be going. If I have to wear a puffy jacket, I ain't going.
I don't picture you in a puffy jacket doing this job.
I don't want to go to wear a puffy jacket to go cover a world championship. I want to be where it's warm. This is great.
Yeah.
Right?
No, this is cool. I love this.
Love it.
But yeah.
So for you, this journey, you've been involved with triathlon for how long?
Oh man, 20 years maybe.
20 years.
Yeah, I did my first try coming off as a runner in college.
Yeah.
And then was a pro triathlete for about 10 years, doing the short course, the draft legal scene.
Yes.
Did a year of Xterra, and then was like, well, I really like this sport a lot, so maybe I'll
stay in it.
Yeah, I'll find a way to make it my job. And so now I have like maybe the second most fun job in the world. Second most fun job in the world.
Good for you.
Yeah.
And there was a point there where we thought, triathlete was going to go away, and Inside Tri had gone away.
Yeah.
When our company sold to Ironman, and magazines were sort of shuttled off to Felix, and fortunately, it's all worked out great. Right?
Yeah.
Because a whole outside umbrella, outside TV, all those magazines that are underneath, I just think it shows that endurance is healthy.
Yeah, and we're doing great.
Good.
Like, I mean, Triathlete is doing well. Our numbers are so far this week higher than they even were for Kona last year, which surprised me. I think we were all like, well, it'll be half because it's just the men.
No,
absolutely not. The interest is there.
I think the interest is there, and it's the only game in town. What else is, right? It's the only game in town right now is the men racing here.
Yeah.
And it'll be the same thing when the women race. I think the numbers will be great for that.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that's exciting. I mean, I really do believe in the health of the sport. I mean, we see it on the back end, when we see the data and stuff like that.
Love it.
And we hear from our readers, for better or for worse, they have opinions. Which is good. That's always my thing. It's like, okay, they're complaining about Nice. Okay, they're complaining about this, but at least they're talking about it.
Here's the deal that I think that back in the day when I first started writing for a magazine called Running a Triathlon News, the editor was Mike Plant.
Yeah.
And so I created the Old Fart of the Month, the Running Wino, the Reverend Campagnola Minister of Triathlism, and all these sort of silly characters. And back then, if people wanted to complain or praise, They had to write a letter and put it in an envelope and take it to the post office and buy a stamp.
Yeah.
And he calls me into his office, and he's got this stack of letters about the old fart of the month and how this is the stupidest thing. It's insulting. And then the next letter is, this is great.
Yeah.
Can I be the old fart?
Yeah.
And he goes, understand, vanilla is not what you want.
No, I
right?
agree.
If you're causing somebody to write a letter and send it, you're doing the right stuff.
Yeah, you got their attention.
You got passion.
Yeah.
You've shown that they're passionate. If people are writing to you guys and they're saying, I hate this, if they really hated it, they wouldn't write it and they wouldn't
read it.
They wouldn't read it.
Right.
So if they're expressing passion, that's what you want.
Right.
You don't care.
I'm with you. Yeah,
exactly.
absolutely.
So
and I
you're
love
doing the right
those
stuff.
Yeah, I loved those columns, by the way. I want to I've been trying to pull back some of that, but triathletes can be a self-serious bunch.
Yes, they can. They really can. Chris, thank you so much for taking time, man.
Yeah,
have a great rest of your week, and
Thank you.
we'll see you in Kona as well, right?
Absolutely.
Love it.
Thanks so much, Bob.
Chris Foster has been our guest, everybody, for the Editor-in-Chief of Triathlete Magazine. Thank you so much for tuning in for day 4 of Breakfast with Bob from beautiful Nice. And catch us out tomorrow. We're going to have a full day of shows. Thanks so much. Bye.